This is the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we discuss Miles Morales, the one and only Spider-Man, as well as anything else we want to talk about. I'm Zach, and with me as always is my co-host, John, the new reader Opat.
John, the new reader Opat.
It's not anything flashy, but I'm taking a step back here. I want to welcome anyone who hasn't been with us yet. I'm going to do another big push on Reddit and try and get new listeners to jump on right now. If anyone's interested in Miles Morales and just Miles Morales,
welcome. One and only Spider-Man, I heard from the title.
Yes. Do you know what that's a reference to?
Trying to make people mad on the internet.
It's like his tagline in the Spider-Verse movie.
Is it? Oh, he does. They do all say that, though, when they introduce themselves. They're all like the one and only Spider-Man, right?
But then by the end, he's like, I'm Miles Morales, and for the last 2 days, I've been the one and only Spider-Man.
Oh, that's funny. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So anyways, as I referenced, my name's Zach. This is my buddy John. On this podcast, we read comics that I have read before that John has not. So we get a fresh take and a take from someone who knows where the story's going. We talk about them, and then we also bullshit whatever we want to say with the rest of our time. It's a good, fun show, and we're glad you're here. And if you've been listening for the last 107 episodes, welcome back. You know the deal. So where we've been is we read a 10-year story arc about Ultimate Peter Parker. This is the Marvel Ultimate Universe. It's like a side universe. Peter was a 15-year-old bit by a radioactive spider. You know the deal. He becomes Spider-Man. He died. We sadly said goodbye
Parker
to Peter.
Was Spider-Man?
Yeah,
Science dork.
That's why you never saw them in the same room together, John.
Wow. That's
Except
crazy.
for the multiple stories where he had impersonators and doppelgangers. So now we are getting into a new series written by the same guy, Brian Michael Bendis, who gave us the last series. And with that, I guess, John, do you have any final thoughts about where we've been, how this pod has gone, what you're thinking, looking forward to getting a new Spider-Man?
No, I wasn't prepared for these questions, Zach.
Okay.
I am looking forward to some Miles Morales, though, because I've seen him in the movies.
Right.
The Spider-Verse stuff. So it'll be kind of fun reading about his origin story. And then one thing Zach didn't mention is the real goal of this podcast is to just get into the Maker storyline, which is what we're all waiting for. Right, Zach?
Yeah, we're absolutely going to take some twists and turns and detours, and wherever we can cover Ultimate Reed Richards, we will be doing that as well.
Yeah. But nope. Zach, how have you been? It's been 2 weeks.
It has been 2 weeks. This has been a hard transition for us going to a bi-weekly schedule because John said he never knows when we're going to record. It's been good. We will get into more of it after the issues, I know, but I went to Coachella, that music festival that we both sponsored. Right.
Yes. How was that?
It was great. Can't wait to talk about it more.
Oh, okay. You don't want to talk about it now?
I figured we would save it for the end.
Okay. We'll save everything for the end so we can just get right into Miles Morales.
Yes. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Better Business Bureau.
Every business says they're better, but the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
And we're back, and we are getting right into our issue today. This is Ultimate Comics Spider-Man #1.
Zach only wants to stand on business today.
I told him we got to be tight at the top. We will become what we always do by the end of the episode. But let's give them a good show right out the gate with Miles Morales. So this is written by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Sarah Pichelli, and colored by Justin Ponzer. And those are all familiar names to us from Peter's era of the book. So the opening scene of this issue is very interesting because it mirrors the opening scene in the year 2000 of Ultimate Spider-Man #1, Peter's first issue. And we see Norman Osborn in a lab talking to someone about the myth of Arachne. John, do you remember this scene from oh so long ago?
I don't at all. When you said it mirrored the scene, I was like, wow. I wonder if he meant like the Arachne storyline and everything, but no, I didn't remember this.
Yeah, this is like how the first issue started. And I made a point to say, isn't it weird that the Ultimate Spider-Man story doesn't start with Peter Parker, it starts with Norman Osborn. And
telling this Greek mythology story?
Telling this Greek myth to someone as he's like fondling a spider that they're experimenting on.
He's got to get some new material.
He really does, because I looked it up. I flipped back and forth between that issue and this issue. And I can confidently say this is not the same conversation. This is not the same event that we saw then. But his delivery of it is pretty tight. He's like a comedian that has his bit memorized, and he can pretty much say it verbatim. But he's talking to someone different. He's in a different lab. The spider is different. Their responses are slightly different.
Yeah, he's just like obsessed with spiders, obviously.
Well, and he's obsessed with the myth of Arachne.
Which is interesting. To his credit, I always liked Greek mythology. In high school and college, I took some Greek mythology classes. They're pretty interesting.
I bet if we went back to episode 1, you probably said the same thing. Here's a few key differences. In the original telling of this, he was talking to another scientist named Justin, who was a white blonde guy. Here he's talking to a black guy named Dr. Marcus.
Is that a famous person from the comics?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And
the spider in the original story was experiment number 00. This is arachnid number 42. So on like the thorax of the spider, the first one had 00 written on it in red, and then this one has 42 written on it in red. And in the original story, Norman is not yet the Green Goblin. But in this one, we know he is. This says 11 months ago. So this is sometime during the events of the Ultimate Spider-Man series with Peter. And I'm just going to read this page. Norman says, "Are you a fan of Greek mythology, Dr. Marcus? Ever heard the myth of Arachne? The story goes that Athena, you know Athena, right? She heard there was this woman on Earth, a mere mortal like you and me." And then I like this. This is a good touch. In this conversation, Norman says under his breath, "Well, like you." Because at this point, he is already the Green Goblin, and he does not consider himself mortal. He says, "This woman happened to be a better spinstress than Athena was. A weaver. And Athena wasn't too happy to hear this. So she came down to Earth and destroyed the woman's creations. And when the woman saw that she had affronted a god, she killed herself. But then Athena took pity on the poor girl. Athena came down and touched her on the forehead with a magic reviving liquid and said, 'You shall not die today, Arachne. You are a great spinstress, and you shall transform so you can weave your web forever.'" And in both issues, at this part of the scene, Norman Osborn actually touches the spider on its forehead as he's talking about Athena touching Arachne on the forehead and giving it a gift. And he said, at Athena's words, Arachne shrank and blackened. Her nose and ears fell off. Her fingers turned to legs. And she was turned into a spider. He says, now I need you to be Athena. And he reveals to Dr. Marcus a secret in the scientific community, which is that he, Norman Osborn, created Spider-Man. And he's essentially tasking Dr. Marcus with the job of recreating that experiment. And he says, if you tell anyone about this, I will literally kill you. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, you heard me. Now get to work. John, is there anything here that you want to talk about? Because I feel like this was a very dense scene, and I think it's, as the first time we saw it, it's meant to convey a lot and set the stage for the series.
Yeah. So these last couple panels where Dr. Marcus is, looking at the spider or something. Okay, so is this what's happening? He puts the spider back in the box, or he goes to, and then when he turns around, the spider leaves the box. So it's unknowingly not in its box.
Yes, it seems he didn't actually close the lid or anything. He put it in the box and then turned around and the box is still open.
It seems like they're being awfully cavalier with these spiders, knowing that one bite from one of them turned someone into Spider-Man, doesn't it?
And I think it's funny that the exact same thing had just happened a month earlier at this point in the story with Peter. They had just lost one of these spiders.
Yeah, you'd think that they'd be a little more secure than a cardboard box.
Right. For all the work Norman Osborn has put into replicating this, he's still missing the biggest mistake that he made the first time, which was you just got to keep track of these spiders. Let me ask you this. Do you think the number 42 means anything?
Yes, that's Jackie Robinson's number, of course.
The
first black baseball player in the MLB.
And what team did Jackie Robinson play for?
Why are you quizzing me like I don't know these things, Zach?
I'm not. This is a podcast conversation. The Brooklyn Dodgers. We don't know this yet, I guess, but where do we know that Miles Morales is from?
Probably Brooklyn, now that you say this, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I think that was an intentional touch.
It was definitely intentional that he was number 42 for Jackie Robinson.
Yeah. What do you think about that? I kind of like it. I think it's cheeky, but it's smart.
It's fine. It feels really obvious to me. I have a hard time believing there's very many people that
didn't pick up on it.
Don't know that, when they see 42. But it's fine. I like it too. It's
Yeah, we're not making any crazy revelations here.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we cut to a page that's kind of in between scenes. That's a Daily Bugle cover that proclaims Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin. And so the implication is that this first scene that we saw was happened right on the precipice of him being outed as the Goblin and probably being taken into SHIELD custody. And it was one of his last acts as a businessman running Osborn Industries. And then we cut to that night or a night not long afterwards where the Prowler breaks into Osborn Industries. We haven't met the Prowler yet, but if you've seen the movie, you know who this is. And he sneaks into the same lab that Norman was just standing in. And he breaks into a safe, and he steals wads of cash and a little red box.
Is Osborn Industries closed down?
It kind of looks like it, right? It kind of looks dusty, and there's no night security or any kind of lights or anything. But I'm not entirely certain because it doesn't really give us a good indicator of how long after that opening scene this is.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of money there, obviously.
Yeah, you would think if it had been any amount of time at all, someone would have come and collected the money from that safe. So it's not just sitting in an empty building. And of course, I mean, we know what's going to happen. Spider number 42 crawls into the Prowler's bag without him knowing, and he brings it out of the building.
And it crawls up his leg to get into the bag. So think how close we were to the Prowler becoming Spider-Man.
That's a good point.
It's pretty close.
Yeah. And that might also be, I mean, I think it's less obvious, but there is something too about in the original story, the spider also landed right on Mary Jane, right? It bites Peter and he flicks it off of him, and it's like on her chest and she screams and then knocks it off of her, and Kong stomps on it. And when Peter reveals to her that he's Spider-Man, she even says, "Hey, it was on me too. I could have been Spider-Man."
Yeah.
Okay, so now we change scenes. We change scenes again. We're in Brooklyn, New York, former home of Jackie Robinson. And we see this nice family walking down the street, and they're talking about something that we don't really know yet.
Did you know that on like Jackie Robinson's birthday or something, all of the baseball players, this was like so long ago, 10 or 12 years ago or something, but for some reason there was something, this is a good story, I know. For some reason there was something in the MLB, maybe it was Jackie Robinson's birthday, but Ken Griffey Jr. like petitioned MLB to wear number 42 that day. Ken Griffey Jr. is my favorite player. And it ended up like becoming a thing that like a ton of players wore number 42 that day. So go Ken Griffey Jr. Go
Hell
Jackie
yeah.
Robinson.
I actually did just learn that the other day when I was reading Jackie Robinson's Wikipedia article because of this issue.
Huh. Oh, man, that reminds me of something really interesting that I learned the other day.
What's that?
Do you want us to get like kind of off track? It's really interesting. So,
yeah, because I don't think we're
okay.
going to come back to it. I don't think we're going to
Okay.
remember.
So I have this habit of like watching like ending explained horror movie things on YouTube. You know, I don't ever watch the horror movies, but I'll watch like what they're all about and everything.
Oh, sure.
I think they're interesting. And I was watching this one on Vivarium. Have you ever heard of that movie with like Jesse Eisenberg?
I have not.
Okay, I don't even have to explain it, but in the movie, there's a scene of these birds, and it led me to reading all about this thing in birds called brood parasitism, like parasitism. I don't know how to say it, but brood parasitism. And it's about these types of birds, one of which is the cuckoo bird, that doesn't care for its own young. The mother
I've heard about this.
Drops the egg.
So up.
The mother drops the egg in another bird's nest, and then the cuckoo bird doesn't take as long to hatch, just through evolution, right? It hatches like earlier than other birds take to hatch. So it hatches first and it kicks the other eggs out of the nest. Or if those birds have hatched, it grows more quickly than other types of birds, and it will kick the birds out of the nest, like the baby birds. And then it gets all the food for itself, so it like keeps growing more quickly. And then the cycle just starts over. It only takes like 9 months for it to reach full age, and then it goes on and drops its eggs in another. Isn't that so weird?
And the other bird mother just shows up and thinks it's one of hers and feeds it and loves it and doesn't really question where the other eggs are going.
Yeah, and then there's also, I was reading, there's this like evolutionary race between the types of birds that live in the cuckoo bird like area and like the type of cuckoo bird, because as the cuckoo bird evolves to like become more secretive or something, then those birds evolve to be able to like sniff it out a little bit better. So then the cuckoo bird, evolves again and blah blah blah, right? So they keep like kind of battling each other, and it's just pretty cool.
That is cool. What reminded you of this?
You said you looked at something on Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. Hell yeah. Love it.
But then one more thing. No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, there is one type of cuckoo bird. They did some studies on it because like parasite implies that only one thing is gaining like positivity from the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise it'd be a symbiotic relationship. So they did some studies to see if there are any benefits to this like thing in like the surrounding birds. And no, except in like one type of cuckoo bird in like New Zealand, where as it so happens, that specific type of cuckoo bird doesn't kill the other birds in the nest. So it still gets raised by the mother, but it doesn't kill the other birds in the nest. And that cuckoo bird like scares off other predators in that area because it's bigger. So that's like the one specific type of this where it is like a positive relationship for both. And it's like, well, yeah, because it's not killing the other babies. So it's not as much of a parasite,
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it was very interesting.
That is
becoming a bird
interesting.
person.
I'm also becoming a bird person. I've told you this. I've gotten into bird watching.
And that movie Vivarium, it did sound pretty cool. I mean, now I know everything that happens in it, but it still sounds pretty cool.
For sure. Awesome. So there's this family walking in Brooklyn. And they're talking about something, and you kind of have to piece it together as the conversation goes because you're just dropped in the middle of it. But they've got this cute young son, Miles. He looks to be like 12 or 13. And they're walking him somewhere, and they're like, if you don't get in, it's okay. We'll still love you. And he's like, okay, I get it. And they're like, really? We mean it. It's all right. And he's going to basically a lottery drawing to get into this exclusive charter school. And they say there's only 40 spots open and 700 families trying to get it. And it's just a ball in a little spinner tube.
It seems like crazy to me that anyone would actually like do this. Like a real life lottery. Like when they said it was a lottery, I wasn't expecting like a real, you go to the drawing and it's like a real time lottery, Like that's not what they do for like the Colts season tickets, is it?
I wouldn't know because I don't have season ticket money. But I don't know. I mean, New York is so different. Us Midwest boys can't even fathom.
That's true. Wow, the big city.
If you have a kid and you want them to get into like a really good school and you're not rich, I would imagine it probably is pretty competitive. Now, is this how they handle it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Also, I'm sure as an educator, you have plenty of thoughts about charter schools in general.
I don't, Zach. I don't. Oh. I'm sure you could talk to a million teachers that would give you some very hard-lined opinion, but I'm a dumbass, so
okay, that's fair. That's fine. You're a dumbass with a master's degree, and that's more than I can say I am.
That's true.
Okay, so they're sitting there and they're hearing all these other kids' names get picked, and you can see other families celebrate.
Sorry, now I have to go back to this. Our charter schools, I mean, they're supposed to be like good schools, right? But then I do know that some teachers do have like problems with charter schools.
So
Zach, tell me, please, because Zach's wife Shyla is also a teacher, and she's smarter than I am about stuff like this.
And he's
probably heard about it.
And she's worked at charter schools. There's a great scene in The West Wing that you have to go back and watch where like Rob Lowe like takes charter schools, behind the woodshed and gives them the what for. And he like does it to impress a girl. And
he gives him a good speech, and then the country is saved.
Yeah, he just goes off on like, I think our public schools should be palaces, and these kids should learn everything. And the girl he's talking to, I think, like kisses him or something. Like that was so great. It's very
Aaron Sorkin's such a politics dork.
It was so dorky. But yeah, the idea of it is like school choice, right? Instead of your tax dollars going towards making the public schools in your area better, you take like your voucher and you say, I want to apply my tax money to pay for my kids' tuition to this private school, essentially, that wrote their own charter where they can teach whatever they want. And theoretically, these schools, I mean, they operate like businesses, right? They market themselves as like better schools, and this is a good opportunity for your kid. But the problem is the funding that now would have gone to one school corporation is getting split between two of them.
Well, definitely.
And neither one has the resources that they need, right? So like she's been at charter schools where most of the people there are just paying with their vouchers, but if you paid out of pocket, it'd be like $20,000 a year. But then they have like class sizes of 40 for young kids, and they have like no books or no playground, or, it's like the building is an old warehouse, from like the 40s that's been retrofitted to serve as a school.
Interesting.
And it's actively taking money away from like the IPS schools.
Well, that's really stupid. Okay. Now that I'm an expert in this subject, because, I teach at a private Catholic school, and they still have to pay, the parents who send their kids to that school still pay taxes, right? That go to public education. They just want to send their kids to a private school, so they have to pay for that if that's what they want to do, right? So I don't see why charter schools should get this thing where they're going to be a private school, but they're going to take tax money that goes to public education. That seems wrong.
All right.
Do go on, Zach.
Where was I about?
He's about to get drawn. They're in a lottery. He's about to get drawn.
Yeah, you know exactly what it is. They're like, there's 3 families left. And they're like, his dad doesn't think this is going to happen. He's like, let's just go. And Miles is the very last person selected. And guess what his number is on the ball? Bet you won't guess, John.
42.
Boom. 42. You're so good. And it's a red 42 also. Like the Spider's tattoo or ink or whatever it is red, and then this is red.
Well, it's certainly reminiscent to Peter Parker's Spider being 00, and then Peter Parker being in gym class and being number 00 in basketball.
I've totally forgot about that.
Yeah, but you also said you didn't notice it when we read it the first time, I remember.
Geez, wow, John, look at you. You are just the encyclopedia brain.
Yes.
So Miles gets selected. His mom hugs him, and she's like, "Oh my God, you have a chance." And he's
such a up thing to say.
I thought the same thing. I was like, "Wow, Rio, I know you're happy, but maybe like show some faith that he was always going to be okay."
Yeah, I mean, like it can't be that big of a difference.
And I'm sure that's like weighing heavy on him because he is looking at all these other kids and families that are like pouting and crying, and he's like, oh man, he's already got guilt for being selected. And he's like, all these other kids, should it be like this? I'll say this, John. I kind of like Miles already because he's an empathetic kid, right? He sees the inequality of the world, and he's like, even though I'm benefiting, this system is wrong.
What a kid. Good kid.
Good kid. And his dad's like, you get to pick dinner tonight, kiddo, which is so funny. That's like how my parents were, right? That's the highest honor is you get whatever restaurant you want. And then we change scenes, and Miles is standing in the hallway of some building, and he's knocking on an apartment door. And he's like, Uncle Aaron, it's Miles, let me in. And this cool cat, kind of dressed like Pharrell, he's got a big hat, opens the door, and he's like, there he is, my man. Little boy, get in here. That sounded creepy. He doesn't say little boy, get in here, but he's like, hey, come in, get in here, boy. He's hanging out with his cool uncle. And he walks in, and they're just kind of shooting the shit. And he's like, guess what? I got into that school. And he's like, that's awesome. Good for you, kid. You want a popsicle? And Aaron goes in the kitchen to get a popsicle, and Miles is just kind of sitting on his couch, and he's still talking. And he sees the duffel bag, the Prowler's duffel bag, and the red box sitting on the table. He's like, hey, what's this stuff? And Aaron is like, oh,
What's
it's
in
just...
that red box, Zach?
What's in the box? What's in the fucking box? I don't know. We'll have to see.
It was glowing originally when Prowler opened it in Oscorp.
Maybe it's Marcellus Wallace's soul.
It might be.
Generally, when a box glows and they never tell you what's in it.
That's what it usually is.
Yeah, odds are good. So Miles picks up the box and he's like, what's this? And Aaron's like, just put it down, don't worry about it. And we see Spider 42 crawl out of Aaron's duffel bag and slowly meander over to Miles. It's like one of those things where the shots are interspersed with like the people talking and whatever they're doing, and the spider's just getting a little closer.
How this spider goes unnoticed so many times by so many different people.
It's a huge spider.
It's humongous. I promise you, if I sat on a couch next to a spider that big, I'd notice it.
If you walked into a room, you would probably notice it.
Notice it.
But
if you walked into the room with a spider that big, even if it's in the duffel bag, you'd be like, something's wrong here.
Yeah. The vibe is off.
This is off.
Right. Well, A, he doesn't have spider senses yet. And B, I don't know, maybe this spider has like some kind of camouflage, right? You know, some spiders.
That's true, I guess. I guess that's true.
Some spiders, John, blend into their environment.
Wow, that's a good point.
It's a defense mechanism.
I know, that's from Spider-Man 1. Zach's smiling at me, waiting for me to get the reference.
It's the line that
he says it to Harry, and then Harry says it to MJ.
Harry's like, what makes you think I would want to know that? And then he fucking steals it.
Harry's a fucking con man.
Harry's such a bitch. Oh my god. And he's a sex pest now, too.
Do you know how many times he went to see Mary Jane's play? Zach, Harry saw it 3 times already.
Sure, because he's a f***ing deadbeat with nothing going on. He's got daddy's money to spend and all the time to do it.
Daddy's money to just spend on play tickets.
Yeah. I'll be lucky if I'm half the man he is. So, you know what's going on here. Everyone in the building knows Miles is about to get bit. And sure enough, chomp, spider bites him. He's eating a popsicle and then the spider bites him. He stands up and he's like, what the... And he immediately collapses and starts foaming at the mouth and blacks out, which is like what happened to Peter on the field trip.
Is it?
It is.
Okay.
Because everyone was making fun of him, and then later he was on the bus with Mary Jane, and she's like, don't feel bad. So Aaron walks over and he's like, what the hell just happened? Miles! And we see the point of view of like he blacks out. And then when he wakes up, Aaron is standing there with a glass of water for him and a phone. And he's like, I called your dad. I didn't know what to do. And Miles's dad bursts through the door and he's like, what the hell did you do? He's kind of coming at Aaron. He thinks he drugged him or something. It's clear that these brothers have a strained relationship, and he was not okay with Miles being over there. And so the two brothers start fighting, and Miles just runs out the door. And Aaron's like, I think your kid just ran away, man. And Miles's dad, who we still don't know his name. We don't know his mom's name or his dad's name just yet. But that they will come up. Miles's dad goes outside and he's running around the street and he's like yelling out his name. He's like, Miles, Miles. And we see someone say, Dad, I'm right. Oh no. And there's Miles Morales sitting on the stoop, kind of invisible. He's like translucent. And you can see right through him to the wall and the graffiti behind him. And he says, whoa. And the issue ends and it says to be continued. And this is a callback to the end of Peter's first issue when he climbs onto his ceiling and he says, whoa.
Ah, this is also a callback to Spider-Man 1 when Harry says to MJ that sometimes spiders can blend into their environment as a defense mechanism.
And it totally works. He starts dating her after that.
Pretty good stuff, huh?
Pretty good stuff.
Wasn't a bad intro for the one and only Spider-Man.
It does a good job of it walks a fine line of being a callback to the first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man and being just a generic Spider-Man origin story. I mean, he has to get bit, right? Doesn't matter that he's not Peter Parker.
I didn't know how this was going to happen, you know?
It goes down pretty similarly to how it does in the movie.
I was actually kind of thinking, like, surely he won't get bit by a spider. Surely there's not two spiders floating around.
There's, Mr. President, a second spider has bit a second teenager. Yeah, that's how spider
he's
people
a bit younger,
are made.
Right?
He is a bit young. He's like 12 or 13 here. He is,
yeah.
And he's drawn it. He is drawn to be very young.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say he's gonna be like, I don't want this gift, and then Peter Parker is gonna die, and he's gonna be like, I need to become Spider-Man.
That is a good hypothesis, because one thing that we have to keep in mind is this is not happening in present day for where we're at.
Yeah.
At the point in time where he's bit, Peter Parker is still pretty early in his Spider-Man career. So we're like reading right now, I don't know, several months to a year in like past continuity for the Ultimate Universe.
Okay.
And right before, you get off the issue on Marvel Unlimited, you see the letters columns. And this is where people could write into Marvel and share their thoughts. And there's nothing to talk about here because everyone's write-ins are completely reasonable and respectful and not problematic at all. These are the ones that they were okay with printing also. So I'm sure people wrote in with the most racist stuff imaginable, but these are the ones they were okay with printing. And a lot of them they're kind of hamming up the controversy, right? They are leaning all the way into, we just killed Peter Parker after 10 years of telling his story, and these people are mad about it.
Yeah. I do think that they're being like pretty funny with it. Like they don't seem to really care that much about what these people are saying. And I only say that because the very last letter is like a mean one from someone named Douglas. And then at the bottom, the like note from Marvel at the end says, some readers like Douglas told us they'd give Miles a chance and we want to say thanks. So it's like either they messed up there and they accidentally used a name from someone who wrote in meanly instead of nicely, or they were just like being funny.
It's a pretty good joke because Douglas specifically says, like, I'll never buy another Marvel comic so long as I live. And they're like, thanks for your support, Douglas. Love that you're on board for new stories. I did want to read this one because I think it's kind of cool. It's like one of the only positive ones. Just wanted to let you know that I am in full support of the current changes going on with the Ultimate Spider-Man title. To tell you the truth, I actually stopped reading the book some time ago, but these changes that you've undertaken have drawn me back in. As a young Hispanic male who grew up reading comics, I always related to Peter Parker the most, despite the idea that he was a white kid from Queens, New York. But I always imagined a day when I could be the kid under the mask. And now today's generation of young readers will get to live in a world where anyone can be Spider-Man. This is when the House of Ideas really does live up to its name. Thank you for all that you do. And I kind of think that is like a good summation of what they are betting on. They were like, sales had fallen off on Peter's title. Otherwise, they would have kept publishing it. And they are betting hard that killing him off and having a new Spider-Man for the new generation is going to work. So we will see how that leads. We'll see if in 10, 15 years anyone is still talking about this Miles Morales kid, or if there's any podcasts about him or movies or video games. It's a big swing.
Yeah, I do think a lot, like, it's really stupid to be like, you can't do this in comic books because there's like 4 million universes, right? If you don't like that Spider-Man is Miles Morales in this one, don't pick these up anymore and read the 300 other comic runs where Peter Parker is Spider-Man, you know? So it's just like, it's not like they're changing it over everything forever.
Right. Although it is funny that this happened at the same time as in the main Marvel line, Peter Parker was dead and Otto Octavius was in his body being Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
So it is kind of funny, just out of sheer coincidence, that in like 2011, there were people who were like, what the fuck? You made Otto Octavius Spider-Man? And then they're immediately like, what the fuck? You killed Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe too?
That is funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's our rating system here?
As far as origin stories go, I respected this one. I liked the callbacks. I was intrigued to know more about the characters. I give this one a 38 out of 42 spiders that Norman Osborn has with.
Wow.
And then probably forgot to close the box and they escaped.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I actually wouldn't be surprised if there's more than 42, Zach.
Right. Who's to say they stopped with that one?
Because, I guess that box could be number... Yeah. Oh, look at that. Yep. That goes up to 44. We can see boxes for 44. Okay, so do we want to change the rating system? Since he fucked with 44 spiders at least?
Sure, I guess I'll make it a 39 out of 44 spiders.
39 out of 44. That probably did drop your percent just a little bit.
Okay.
But
from
like
okay. a 90 to an 89.999.
So let's see, a 40 out of 44, that would be 10 out of 11. So that's like, 90, 93%. So that's pretty high up there.
Look at that. You can't get that kind of education from a charter school.
You can't. That's true. I will give it a 37 out of 44. Which, let's see, 36 out of 44 would be 9 out of 11. So a little higher than that, it's like an 88% or something, probably. That's still pretty good.
That's like almost exactly what I gave it.
It's still pretty good. So, yeah, it was a good origin story, seemed fresh.
Yes.
Even though...
Which we have not necessarily
he got bit
thought.
By the spider. I don't know. It's interesting. I've seen the movies, so I know about his Uncle Aaron and his dad with the racist name.
Yeah, we'll get there. For all the thought that they put into the spider being number 42 and the timeline of all these events happening, they really could have thought through Jefferson Davis as a name of a black male character a little bit more.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I wonder why. Huh?
I've heard it was literally just an oversight, and Bendis knew someone named Jeff Davis, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to use that name." And apparently, all the editors were asleep at the wheel.
That's pretty funny. Okay, so we're moving on. Next,
We're moving on. So let me ask you this: if you were reading these comics in real time, and the whole world was in an uproar over they just killed Peter Parker, and they're going to make some new kid Spider-Man, and Glenn Beck is on TV yelling about he's black, he's gay, he looks like Obama. Is he gay?
No,
but Glenn Beck thought he was.
Okay.
He's like, they're trying to brainwash kids into liking Obama. And if you were in an atmosphere where this comic was being like talked about for months, and then this came out, do you think it would live up to the hype, or do you think you'd be a little disappointed?
I think Republicans are so funny.
They are.
I think it's hilarious that they had a black teenager get bit by a spider, and it was on Fox News being like ran about. I think that's got to be like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my life, and I love it, and I love our country for that. Let me just say.
Never underestimate what Fox News will cover on a slow news cycle.
Dude, they would have covered this on a fast news cycle.
We just bombed Iran, and also we have a woke Spider-Man.
I mean, I think it comes back to like what I said about like the comic book multiverse. It's so, dude. Has Glenn Beck read the first 160 issues of the Ultimate Spider-Man series and seen all the dumb shit that they did in that series? Like, why? This is not really, I feel like killing Daredevil was I'm upset about that.
It was pretty clear, because I've watched the clip of him ranting about this. It's very clear that, like, a lot of things on his show, and
they made Wanda and Pietro incestual. Did you go on Fox News and rant about that?
I don't think Fox News ever talked about that. No. It's pretty clear that, like, his producers just kind of threw something together, and he was reading the teleprompter and didn't even know what he was like supposed to be mad about. Because he's like, he does try and act like he knows about comics. He's like, ever since my father was a boy, Peter Parker has been a white man, and all of a sudden he's not. And it's like, okay, well, this Peter Parker wasn't around when your dad was a boy.
This isn't Peter Parker. This is a different guy. Well, they didn't make Peter Parker a black teenager from Brooklyn.
This was the main Marvel universe. He thought this was like 616.
Yeah.
He didn't even realize this is like a side universe where they have more freedom to tell unique stories.
I mean, every single comic book character has multiple people that have been that superhero. So it's not that crazy to say that Spider-Man is someone else sometimes, right?
Right. Surely they weren't this mad in the 90s when Ben Reilly was Spider-Man, because that's still a white man.
Yeah, I mean, it's so dumb, but, whatever.
Whatever. All right. You want to take us into issue 2?
Nobody's actually, like, upset, I don't think.
If they are, they need to touch grass.
It's all just, like, fake outrage,
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, let's read this.
But as Brian Michael Bendis said, thank you, Glenn Beck, for promoting these issues better than I ever could.
Yeah, 100%. And dude, I heard that they won't even make the brown M&M sexy anymore.
What is this world coming to?
That was a Tucker Carlson bit.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
If we can't goon to the M&M characters, what do we have?
I hate that term. That's like such a stupid online. Every time I read it, I'm like, ugh, it's disgusting. It's such a. Okay, so Miles is freaking out. He's running in Brooklyn. This is also written by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Sarah Pacelli, colored by Justin Ponzer.
And I gotta say one thing about the cover of this one.
Say it.
for like the first 4 or 5 years of the Ultimate Spider-Man run under Bendis and Bagley, the covers were almost always it wasn't like a fight sequence. It wasn't an action cover. It was always just a hyper-realistic background of New York City and Spider-Man swinging through it, to the point that we would even comment, we'd be like, these covers are kind of boring. It's just like, oh, he's swinging by the Chrysler Building. Oh, he's swinging through Times Square. Oh, he's sitting on a water tower. This one is a callback to that, and it's Miles swinging through like a hyper-realistic Rockefeller Center.
Nice. Good job, resident architecture person.
No problem.
Also, those covers are better than when they put like superheroes on the covers that don't even show up. You know,
John hates a fake out.
I do. So Miles is running through the streets. He's kind of panicked. And there's these people moving a TV. And one of them says, so I said to the guy, you never read the book, yet you go online and talk about it as if, and then they're cut off. So I wanted to ask you, Zach, what did you think they were talking about? That this guy has never read the book, but he's going online and talking about it.
That could be so many things.
What year would this be?
That's what everyone does about every book, right?
Yeah, so what year did this comic come out in?
Like 2011. I mean,
could this be Game of Thrones? Was that not out yet?
Oh, Game of Thrones would have been out. I don't know that the show would have been big.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I meant the show. Because this sounds like someone's talking online because they've seen the show, but they haven't even read the books. First episode date was 2011. This could be, they could be talking about Game of Thrones.
Well, you know what it probably is actually, in like a metatextual way, is all these people hating on the Ultimate Spider-Man comic run that they've never in their life picked up or read.
Oh, you're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
But in universe, I think you're right that he's talking about some online discourse.
Yeah, but you're definitely right. That's what it's referring to.
Yeah, a very clever line.
Yeah. So Miles jumps over the TV in like a fast sprint, pretty athletically, and everyone like turns and looks at him, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how'd you do that?" And as they're all looking at him, he turns invisible, and the crowd starts being like, "Oh, it's a mutant! Oh my gosh!" And Miles kind of just invisibly walks off and crouches until he like regains his composure and he's ready to start walking home again.
And he's visible again.
Yeah. So Miles starts walking home, and now we get another comment where they're like, and I said to the guy, blah, blah, blah. And he says, and I said to her that her friend was a big fat pig, and what does that have to do with me? Dude, Bendis' writing is always just spot on.
He's always got people having like these like, how to describe it? It's like Tarantino conversations, right? It's like you're actually walking in on the middle of a conversation that has nothing to do with the story, just to show you, oh, these are real people.
And everybody's constantly going, and I said to him.
Yeah. So Athena, you know Athena, right? So anyways, Athena takes this spider.
She said to her. So these guys, they're punks. They're hanging out on the stoop as punks do. And Peter Parker walks by.
Peter Parker?
Just messing around with you.
This guy.
And Miles walks by.
You know, Peter Parker could walk by, right? Because he is still alive at the point in time when this comic happens.
I actually, in a lot of these background shots where you see people, I was doing a pretty careful look to see if we just get any Easter eggs. And I never saw any.
We might later.
So these punks stop old Miles Morales, and they're like picking on him. They're like, you got anything to eat in that bag of yours or an iPad? And one of them grabs Miles around the neck, and Miles kind of grabs him on his hand. and it gives him a little shock. And if we've seen the Spider-Verse movies, which I have, I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of Miles's powers in the Spider-Verse movies.
Because
open palms, right? Just like that punk rock Spider-Man told him.
that's right. Yeah, Hobie Brown.
Oh, yeah. Zach, I love to tell you, by the way, I'm back on my bomb the music industry bullshit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like all I've been listening to lately.
I just saw Laura Stevenson announced a tour, but it's like not coming anywhere near us. That's the girl from Bomb the Music Industry.
Context clues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's like, the little just zapped me, and he grabs Miles again, and he says, now you're going to get it, big boy. And Miles puts his full palm on his chest and zaps him hard to the ground. And he says, get away from me. And once again, everyone's like, oh my God, he's a mutant. He's one of the mutants. And Miles kind of scampers off. This is, we have seen a lot of anti-mutant stuff in this Ultimate Universe. And this kind of, it just adds to that.
And we've talked about that before. Bendis does a really good job, even when he is not writing X-Men, of just reminding us, just peppering it in there every now and then, that this is like the political landscape that all of these characters live in, is that mutants are hated and feared.
Yeah. Probably as they should be. One of them did, drown the world. What? Can we cut that?
We'll see if anyone else mentions that.
Miles runs into, some room. Is he home? Is this his house?
No, he barged into his friend's house.
Yeah, okay. So he barges into his friend Genki's house, and Genki looks like Ned from the Homecoming home down to Across the Home verse movies. And
yes,
I know that he's supposed to look. That's like what they based Ned off of, right?
Yes,
they based the look off of Genki.
If you like Ned leads in the MCU, Genki is your guy.
And Genki is building some big Lego thing, and Miles bursts in. He's like, oh my God, dude, I need your help. You can't tell anyone. He's like, blah, 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 right? They do this whole thing. Guy, you're never going to believe this. Okay, don't tell anyone. Okay, you promise you won't tell? And then Miles tries to go invisible, but of course it's not going to work. He just sits there looking like he's trying to do something.
Dork can't control his powers.
Can't, yeah. And he's like, okay, let me try something else. Look at this. And he puts his hand down on Ned's Lego big thing, and he explodes it into the air into a million pieces.
It's a pirate ship.
And that's probably a metaphor because Peter stole these powers like pirates on open seas.
Oh. Maybe. That's definitely a thought that's never been put on the internet before.
Yep. And Ned's like, how'd you do that? And Miles is like, I think I'm a mutant. And Ned's like, okay, well, try to do that again on something that I didn't spend 3 weeks building. And they're like, I turned into a mutant today. I got bit by a spider. And Ned thinks it's pretty cool that he's like a...
You keep calling him now. Ned.
Is that not his name?
It's Genki.
Whatever. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Ned/Genki.
We are 2 issues of Miles Morales in. We are not going to call his biggest supporting character the wrong name.
Oh, okay. Fine. Genki.
Because if you start that now, we will never stop calling him Ned.
And, so, this is kind of interesting, Zach. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to tell me if you've ever heard of this. And we can cut this out if you want to.
Is it about birds again?
No. But if it was, that's interesting. So we wouldn't cut that.
I know.
Have you ever heard of the Asian squat?
No.
Okay, that's a thing that I just like came across online one day, however long ago, and it's apparently a way that like Asian people squat down that white people just don't squat down like that. They like bend over more. And it's like an online thing, I guess. And anyways, the way Ned bends down to pick up his Legos, that's specifically what that looks like. So I was just going to ask you if you've ever heard of that.
Is there like better health benefits for it? Like you're supposed to squat like that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just like a thing, you know? And I've seen that there was a small joke in Tires that you would have never gotten unless you like knew that reference. And then there's just like a small joke that's pretty funny.
What, does Cal squat like that or something?
Yes, he does. In you probably can know the episode that I'm talking about because they like make reference to like Cal being the most like Asian person in the warehouse, and then it cuts to him and he's like squatting like that, smoking a cigarette. Anywho, so Genki is like,
there you
dude,
go.
You're a mutant. This is so cool. And Miles is like, no, it's not. It's not cool to be a mutant. They throw mutants in concentration camps. Mutant tried to drown New York City. Being a mutant is not okay. And Genki's like, I don't care what you say. This is insanely cool. And just then, Miles' parents come in. And they're like, oh my God, thank God you're here. Let's go. So that's why I was like, did they live together? I don't understand.
So I think Genki's mom let Jefferson in.
Yeah. And here's something else interesting that happened. When Miles first bursts in and he's like, I got into that lottery. Genki says, oh, cool. Maybe we can room to before he gets cut off. So Genki is already admitted into this charter school. So is he supposed to be in like a nicer neighborhood maybe? And he's like just like richer. So he's actually like paying to go to this good school.
That might be because Legos are very expensive. And also Genki looks like he has a nice room.
Well, he wasn't at the lottery, right?
Right.
So theoretically he was already in somehow. So that's what it makes me think that you could probably pay to go in, or there's a lottery, you know, for like lower income families.
Yeah, I had the same thought, but just practically, you know, if Miles is going to go to this school and we're introducing like his, you know, cast of characters, he's got to have like a peer that he goes there with.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. Of course,
that's
just
like
for the story's sake.
Yeah, that's the function of Genki being there, but it's not really explained how Genki got in, whether it's the lottery or he was already there or what.
So Miles walks out with his parents, and he and his dad go on a little walk, and they're in a big crowd of people, and there's no Easter eggs for anybody in the background, just in case anyone's wondering. And he starts to have a talk with Miles about why they're not. He's like, why he and Uncle Aaron fight, and he doesn't want Miles going over there. And he says that Uncle Aaron was a crook, and when he was younger, they were both crooks because they didn't see any opportunities that they had in that area, which kind of goes with what Miles's mom was said when he was like, you got in school, now you have a chance, you know. I don't know, must be a rough area.
Yeah, thank God. Your choices were either get into this school or you're like stealing hubcaps for the rest of your life.
Well, I would say Uncle Aaron is doing pretty well for himself if he's like the prowler and he's like robbing Oscorp Industries and not getting caught.
Sure, he's doing well for himself.
He's not just a common crook, you know.
Right. No, he is he's
a beast.
Yeah. He's exceptional in the field of crime.
Yeah. You know,
real quick, did you think of anything else as as Jefferson and Miles are sitting on this park bench talking? Did this remind you of anything?
Well, I'm sure it's supposed to remind you of like Uncle Ben talking to Peter.
Oh, not at all. I was thinking of that issue where Venom is just sitting on the park bench and he's like telling his tale to different people and then he eats them.
It's probably the same bench.
I
Now,
thought it
that'd
would
be
be
interesting to go back and look at.
It would be really funny if they're having this conversation and like behind them on the other side of the park, we just see like Eddie Brock sitting at a park bench talking
That
to
would
an
be
old
funny.
lady.
That would be funny. So Miles and his dad are talking, and his dad's explaining that, you know, he's so ashamed of his actions in the past and blah, blah, blah. And I say blah, blah, blah because I just don't think it's that big of a deal, you know? Like, oh my God, you did a little crime when you were younger. Like, it's not really the end of the world.
It's a
You know,
corporate comic.
my dad and his cousins stole all the time when they were younger because they like grew up in poor neighborhoods, you know? Like, that's what you did.
That is what you
You
did.
stole
This is a corporate comic, so they have to clutch their pearls, right?
Yeah.
Disney owns this. They don't want to encourage any type of stepping outside the lines.
Yeah. So, he says that he's like, his Uncle Aaron been to jail, and he's like, yeah, and Jefferson Davis says he's been there too, and they're like, he's probably gonna,
Good.
and he's
Jefferson Davis should have gone to jail. We should have been much harsher on the Confederacy, actually.
And, what was I about to say?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Miles's dad is basically like, yeah, he's probably going to go back to jail, so that's why you shouldn't be around him. You know, your mom and I just can't have that type of stuff in your life. And he's like, you got to be a good man. And I don't know. It felt like Uncle Ben stuff to me. I thought he was about to be like, when you've got responsibility, then it's you got to do the challenge of being a great person with that responsibility. You know, just say it in different words or something.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen style. Yeah.
Just butchering the easiest line to deliver.
It's not right. It's not choice. Responsibility.
I was the president.
And so Miles and his dad go home. You know, they've reached a shared understanding, I think.
And his dad, he says something like, you know, I'm not mad at you for going to your uncle. I'm like disappointed in myself that you felt like you couldn't come to me.
Yeah.
Seems like a very dad thing to say. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Always hits hard.
Mm-hmm. That's a classic thing I do with my students all the time. I don't get mad. I get disappointed in them.
And I can just imagine you leaning against your desk like JFK as you say it.
Just say, you know, guys, I just expect better from you. You know,
Yeah.
That's all. I just expect better from you.
Head down, long silence. Never in all my years of teaching has a substitute teacher left a note that bad.
And then I say, shut the f*** up.
Just grab these kids and shake them.
So Miles is home. He's in his bed, and his phone dings. And Genki says to him, "It's a text from Genki." And he
Well,
says,
hold on. Wait a
yes,
minute.
okay, go.
We
I'm
are
held. I'm held.
Burying the lead. John, you were looking through this whole issue for Easter eggs.
Oh yes. You're right. I skipped a page. Yeah.
Did we find any?
So after Miles and his dad have their like, I'm disappointed, whatever, what we talked about, then on the next page, all of a sudden the Human Torch and Johnny Iceman flies through. What's his name?
Well, Johnny Storm is the Human Torch.
Oh yeah.
Bobby.
He's such a loser.
He's got his do-rag on again.
I know. I couldn't even be cast with thinking of his name with his stupid do-rag on.
It's like the Lucille Bluth thing. Like, I love all my children equally, and then a few minutes later, I don't care for Bobby Drake.
And Miles is like, "Wow," and his dad says, "You'd think after all these cities had to deal with, they would round up these mutants and let us live our lives like normal human beings."
Spoken like a
And
true Jefferson Davis.
that is a f***ed up thing to say, okay?
And
that is something we would normally expect out of a villain. Like Liz Allen.
yeah, it's pretty fascist, honestly.
I mean, that's kind of not even like, that's a bit worse than just being like, ugh, these mutants. I can't stand these mutants, right? He said they should round up these mutants. Dang, that's rough, man.
The reformed criminal is like, yeah, I don't care.
You know,
Get him out of here.
I thought that same exact thing. I'm like, you just got done talking about how you're like trying to be a better man and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, let's round up these people.
Anyways, clean up the streets. Get them all out of here. I don't care. And it's also very sad because the subtext of the conversation is Miles feels comfortable telling his Uncle Aaron anything. And the dad is like, well, you should be able to tell me anything. And Miles is about to tell him, Dad, I think I'm a mutant. And lo and behold, some super people fly by, and his dad gets super racist about mutants. So that's why.
I don't think he was about to tell his dad anything. I didn't read that.
Okay, I think he was at least thinking of it. Or his dad was like, I mean, his dad was telling him, you can tell me anything. What did he just tell Genki? Where did we just come from? He was like, Genki, I'm a mutant.
Yeah.
So this is in his mind. He's like, my dad hates mutants. I'm a mutant.
Huh. I mean, that is interesting. Yeah. Well, of course, once he says,
maybe this is where
I don't know. I don't know if just based on the drawings and the facial expressions and him saying like dad, where afterwards he says there's nothing in the world I won't tell you, like it feels like to me he immediately sees the human because that's like his spidey sense going off. So he immediately sees them flying by. And then his dad says the thing about rounding up mutants, and the only thing he says is, well, I don't think the Human Torch is really a mute. And then he's like, we should just leave the city alone. Your mother's waiting on us. You're going to be a man before either of us knows it. So I'm not sure how much time he had to really think, like, in that moment.
Well, he's going to be thinking about it afterwards.
Of course. Yeah.
And,
so
there was something else. Hold on.
Is this from a scene? And did we see this? Because the little girl with the Mickey Mouse thing, that looks kind of familiar.
I don't think so. I think this is just it could be any time that Johnny and Bobby were like zooming around together.
That is a little rude of them if they were just like out having fun.
They're probably going to save something.
Probably. Okay, so now Miles is in his bed and he wakes up to a text from Genki. And it says,
okay, this is what I was going to say. I'm sorry. I wonder if this is where Glenn Beck's producers got the idea that Miles Morales is gay. Because this kind of seems like a coming out experience of like, you're about to tell your parents, hey, I think I might be gay or trans or something. And they're like already launching into, man, how can they do that in front of the kids? Why can't they just keep it to themselves? You know, I'm okay with them, but they don't need to do it in front of me and rub it in our faces. Maybe they got the sense that this was like a coming out story.
I don't think so.
You think they just didn't read?
I mean, that's just like every single superhero story ever. They're always like, oh my God, should I tell someone about this? I mean, you could say that about any superhero story, right? That it's like an analogy for like coming out.
I guess. I've just always been curious where Glenn Beck got the idea that Miles was gay.
They're f***ing idiots.
It probably is that simple.
They're making the brown M&Ms not sexy enough, Zach.
Okay, all right. Sorry I interrupted you for that bullshit.
So Ned says he's not a mutant. Ned did some research about spiders. And he's like, you have chameleon powers, and some spiders do also, and you have a venom spike like some spiders. And Miles says, what are you talking about? And Genki says, Spider-Man was bit by a spider too. And then he sends him an article by Ben Urich about how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. And Genki says, sorry, you're not a mutant, but are you Spider-Man? And just then, Miles, laying in his bed, kind of thinks to himself about seeing Spider-Man climb on a wall. And he starts to climb on his own wall, and he climbs up onto the ceiling. And he says, oh no.
Okay.
To be continued.
This is another scene that is like shot for shot recreated from that first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. And this is the scene where the issue ends with Peter doing this on his ceiling, and he says, whoa. And here Miles does it, and he says, oh no. And even like the shots of him looking at his hand and then looking at his ceiling, and his ceiling light is even the same ceiling light as like Peter's in his room. And all of those drawings of like the hands and the feet, those are the same.
Yeah.
And then one other small Easter egg is Genki's like profile picture is Fin Fang Foom, who's like a telekinetic dragon that's like an Iron Man villain.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, he's like, what? I was thinking he was the Doctor Strange guy, but you probably know much better than I do.
I think he's fought many people.
Okay. Wow, it's kind of messed up, Genki. Is that maybe a little tease? Is he going to be a villain?
I think it's just a fun Easter egg because I don't even think Fin Fang Foom exists in the Ultimate Universe. He's such a silly and old-timey villain. I doubt he shows up here at all.
Okay. So what's our rating scale for this one? What should it be, Zach? What should it be? 10 boxes that fell off the back of a truck when Uncle Aaron and Jefferson Davis were kids.
Oh, sure. What's in the loot?
Let's do I'll give this one an 8.5 out of 10 boxes that fell off the back of a truck.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say like 8 out of 10. I'm still enjoying it. I am like, I have goodwill towards them on this run. I'm like, you know what? I'll check this out. Yeah. This looks like you guys are doing some fresh stuff. Let's see more.
To be honest, I'm a little more into this right now than I was some of those final storylines in the Peter Parker Ultimate run,
Well, yeah, because unfortunately that run kind of sucked until they got into Death of Spider-Man.
Yeah, so this feels pretty good.
We had Ultimate Doomsday and we had Death of Spider-Man, and aside from those, it was like a very long slog for a while.
You know what's funny? In like the comments after this one, they were like, hey, are there any characters from the original Ultimate run that you might want to bring back? And the one character they go, I really like the way Brian depicted Lena Bombshell. And I think I audibly groaned. I was like, oh, please don't bring back the Bombshell twins girls.
Yeah, it's a mother and daughter.
I know, yeah.
I'll just tell you, yeah, we're seeing more of her. She is more of a Miles character than a Peter character. So she'll be around.
She's going to transfer schools
somewhat heavily.
All right. Well, any other Spider-Man shenanigans? Zach, if you shenan once, you're going to shenan again.
Okay, well then I guess I'll shenan again right now. I sent you this earlier in the week, and I just kind of wanted to read it on the pod because I think it's interesting, and I crossed it at a timely moment. So I was reading this book. It's called All of the Marvels by Douglas Wolk. There's like 3 people on Earth who have read every Marvel comic ever, and he's one of them, and he wrote a book about it. And this was the page that he was talking about the Ultimate like Spider-Man universe. In this book, he doesn't break down like every important comic in Marvel history, but he finds specific ones that he thinks are worth talking about. And he writes up just a little paragraph about them. And these are two comics that we have read recently. So I wanted to share his thoughts about those. So for Ultimate Spider-Man 153, this is the beginning or thereabouts of the Death of Spider-Man story. And Douglas Wolk says, another Peter Parker was about to defy death and lose altogether. The same month as Amazing Spider-Man 655. So this is like coming after he had just talked about Superior Spider-Man with Doc Ock taking over Peter's body in the main universe. He says the same month as that, in the Ultimate Comics line, they started telling a story called Death of Spider-Man, which does what it says on the package. The story of the Ultimate Universe's teenage Peter Parker concludes as a tragedy. He saves his Aunt May, but perishes in a fight with the Green Goblin, finally having redeemed himself in his own mind for his uncle's death. And then the following blurb, he writes about Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 4, which is what we read a couple of weeks ago on the pod. And he says, Ultimate Spider-Man continued by posing a question clever enough to keep its Spider-Man from spinning in circles forever. What if Spider-Man didn't have to be Peter Parker's story? What if it didn't have anything to do with Peter Parker at all? Here, Miles Morales, a black and Latino teenager who's also gotten powers from a spider bite, decides to honor the dead Spider-Man by taking on his costume's identity. Miles is exactly what we needed. A way to tell Spider-Man stories about a present-day kid, an outsider, struggling to figure out who he is in multiple ways, who finds himself with power he never asked for, takes on a responsibility that seems like more he can handle, and rises to the challenge anyways.
Okay. Who said that?
Douglas Wolk, author of all of the Marvels.
One of the guys who's read every single comic.
Yes. So now, with that, I've shenaned once, I've shenaned again. Do you have anything else to talk about Spider-Man for this week?
Any more Spider-Man stuff? No, I don't think that I do.
Oh, there was one thing. Damn it, I will shenan again.
Okay.
A listener sent me this on Instagram, but I had already seen it beforehand, but it was cool to like have the conversation anyways. The Spider-Man, the animated series from the 90s that we all knew and loved, it ended on a cliffhanger. I don't know if you knew this, but Mary Jane gets like sent into some other dimension, and then Madam Web is like, Peter, you got to go save her. Huh. And there's never any more episodes. Mary Jane is just lost forever. Except now they are going to do I think 4-part miniseries set in that universe that explains the story of how Peter gets Mary Jane back. So
very
like
cool.
30 years later, we're finally getting closure on the animated series.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought Disney, weren't they going to bring that back?
I think there was talks about it after X-Men 97 did so well. But it seems like they've probably decided to go this comic route instead because it'll be cheaper.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm done with Spider-Man.
So are the Pacers going to win tonight? This is Zach and I are recording this the day of Game 7. So Zach's in his Pacers gear. In 49 states, it's just basketball, but this is Indiana. I'm in my autographed Lance Stevenson jersey.
I was going to ask if that was Lance.
Win? Yes.
That's awesome. I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous to jinx it because this take will either be vindicated or age like milk in mere hours.
Zach's about to say we're going to dominate him.
In mere hours, I'm going to look like a fool, and then I'm going to have to wait to edit and post this the following weekend when everyone already knows what happened. I mean, that's just not fair. But, you know, this is a team of destiny. We have the mandate from heaven. God has decided that he wants the Indiana Pacers to lift the Larry O'Brien trophy. We're going to see some gold confetti falling in Oklahoma City tonight, brother.
Oh man, it's hard to envision beating OKC on the road, but it's not that hard to envision one game to win the championship. You know, I trust our role players a bit more than I trust their guys. Like, I have no doubt that Shea will score 30 to 40 points, but the Thunder are like the youngest team in the league, and this is going to be a very high pressure situation. And I just trust our guys a little bit better, having played in high pressure situations so many times this postseason, and they're just a little older, and they've
more
just
clutch.
We're
built that way.
Yeah,
we got that dog in us.
I mean, kind of, right? Like, I just in a big clutch moment, which Game 7, the whole game is effectively a big clutch moment. You know, I trust Aaron Nesmith and Nemhard and McConnell. I don't trust Miles Turner at all. That dude is soft.
He'll get a block or two.
Sure. And, you know, I hope he proves me wrong, dude, because when he's hitting his threes, we're pretty hard to beat. But I think we're probably better when Obi Toppin comes in as our fifth instead of Miles.
Obi's been a beast.
Yeah, and he's been hitting. So he might have a rough Game 7. He's still in that. You know, I could see him clanking his shots tonight. Just a little too much energy. You know,
Tyrese Halliburton legacy game. Let's get one more game winner shot. Let's get 40 points and a game winner. Also, you're talking about how like the stakes and the pressure, and you know, the pressure is on OKC. Everyone thought they were going to win this in 4 or 5 games, and here they are in front of their home crowd to win it all. And if they choke, that's
I've got a couple buddies going there, so it won't be a fully home crowd.
Okay. Well, they tried to restrict the sales to just people from like those surrounding states.
Really?
Yeah. So you had to like buy it on the secondary market if you were from Indiana.
I don't know how they got it, but
it's like the Pacers weren't supposed to be here. If they lose, no one will be surprised. But if Oklahoma City loses, everyone will be talking about how they blew it. So that's got to be a lot more pressure on them than on
I mean, we'll
Pacers.
see. I don't think people will be talking about how they blew it. I think they'll be talking about how the Pacers are like great.
Well, we will, right?
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith will be huffing copium on air.
I don't know. It'll be fun. We'll see.
It will either be fun or it will be the worst night ever.
You know, man, it wouldn't surprise me if we were just down 12 to 20 points the entire game and just couldn't quite get there. Like, the Thunder were one of the best teams of all time from an analytic standpoint, which, even as I say that, I don't fully believe that, because the Thunder, I mean, they are. There's nothing to believe or not believe, right? They were by the numbers, but teams just don't try hard in the regular season anymore. And the Thunder were a team that went 100% every game. So statistically, they are like up there with the best teams, but it was like a different time where the regular season was a bit more competitive every game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're like as historically great as maybe it seemed the numbers said they were before the playoffs started. And I think you've seen that in the playoffs. You know, Denver took them to 7.
Sure.
Minnesota won a couple on them, you know.
Anything can happen. Like, nothing in the range of outcomes would surprise me. A big Pacers win wouldn't surprise me. A big Thunder win wouldn't surprise me. A close Pacers win.
A big Pacers win would surprise me.
When I say big, like the other night, you know, if you win by like 9 points or something, I think that's a pretty commanding final lead. I'm not talking 40 points.
Yeah. Well, the other night they were up by 30. So
yeah, but that's proof of concept. Anything can happen. This game could be as close or as lopsided as you want to make it on either side.
Yeah.
Both are good teams, then they both just need to win one more for a championship.
2 weeks from now, we'll get to talk about it again.
Yep. I am dreading the outcome where I stay up until midnight to watch this game, get my heart broken, have to go to work the next day because it's Monday morning, get chewed out by my bosses about some dumb shit from last week, and then the U.S. enters a war and we go into a recession, all in like 24 hours of each other. The odds for that are not necessarily high, but they are the highest they have ever been in my life. Because that's
a good segue if we're done on the Pacers. Apparently something happened that I don't pay attention to, but now Zach's going to tell us all about it.
Sure. And this is the other thing that is like the downside of recording, every other week and then posting every other week is this is going to be such old news by this time. We might either be deep into World War III or we might be on to the next news story because we just have we just have such short attention spans now. If we don't get an immediate consequence, we forget about huge world events. But we bombed Iran last night. The United States did. And I don't know, John, usually when people on the internet talk about World War III is coming, I've seen that trending so many times over the last decade. And I kind of go numb to it. I'm like, yeah, something bad just happened geopolitically, but it's not going to escalate into something that crazy. I don't know, man. Streets are saying bombing Iran is not good. And something might come of this. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about it, but I guess we probably shouldn't be bombing people. There's my take.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did, but
I wish of the two major political parties we have in this country, one of them was anti-war. That's pretty crazy that we just don't have that option. I mean, we don't really have any option, but we openly don't have that option.
Well, I can't wait to hear more about this in 2 weeks the next time I talk to you.
Yeah.
Because unless a bomb drops on my house, I will not know what's going on.
I'll keep you informed. I'll keep you in the loop.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Fingers crossed. Best case scenario here is Pacers win a championship tonight and nothing comes of us bombing a country without congressional approval or anything.
That would be the best case scenario.
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for.
Well, do we have anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Fochella for just a second. Oh
yeah, definitely.
Went to that last weekend with an old buddy, Bowling Green, Ohio. Fo 8. It's the last one. They got sued. They can't use that name anymore. They outgrew that venue and it got sold. They won't be in that city anymore. Next year, it will truly be a different music festival in a different place under a different name. It'll be a lot bigger. And I've already told them, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast will still be there. Because
of course, we're sponsoring.
It was a great time, and I want to keep this partnership rolling. So many good bands in such a small little bar. The energy was palpable. You could cut it with a knife. They do a fun thing there where they make these little trading cards, like baseball cards, for the members of the bands. And they'll hand it to you as you enter the bar the first time, on the first day. You'll check in and they'll get you your wristband and it'll be like, here's 5 trading cards. And it'll be like, oh yeah, this is John Parkinson from Summer Brews. And you're just like, that's awesome. And you can find these people and have them sign them, or you can give them their own trading cards. Everyone was super nice and fun. Bowling Green is actually a dope little college city with a lot of cool bars and stores and stuff that we checked out. All the bands rocked. Indiana bands, Leisure Hour, Later Gator, Summer Brews, Echo, specifically rocked. Love our local scene. Leisure Hour from Muncie, who I had never heard of before Fochella, blew my mind with the greatest shirt of all time. It looks like Hooters, but it says Hoosiers. And I only didn't get it because they were out of larges, so I got to wait for them to restock that. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Fochella, for letting me get a ticket by being a sponsor, even though the show was already sold out.
Nice. So did anybody talk about the pod?
People did see me in my Spider-Man shirt, and they were like, "Are you that guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm that guy."
Awesome.
John, I got to be that guy.
Awesome. You were that guy for the day.
Yeah, I was that guy for the day, and I was treated so well. They said hot dogs at this house a couple blocks away for all the bands and people working the fest, and because I had an artist pass, I just like walked in and, you know, acted like I belonged, had some hot dogs with the bands.
That's awesome. Hot dogs with the bands.
Yeah. Truly, like, an experience that Live Nation would charge you $10 gazillion for, and in the DIY scene you just kind of fall into it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Good job. Way to sponsor.
What about you, John? What have you been up to?
Oh, nothing. Playing golf, playing tennis, enjoying my summer break.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I wanted to give you an update about golf. I think I'm about ready to maybe like hit the greens with you. I know I've been saying for like over a year, I just like the driving range. I'm so bad. All I want to do is just send it to the moon. Last time I was at the driving range, I like started using some other clubs, and I'm like, I'm just curious. What is my short game even like? And I was like, you know what? I'm still not good, but I'm good enough that like we could hit up a par 3.
You can play? Okay.
We could have a little fun.
You won't even get to use the driver.
Well, with how good I am, I could.
Yeah, you probably still could, yeah. Oh,
well,
yeah,
I mean,
be fun.
who knows?
Well,
yeah.
Let me know. I'll be there.
We'll have to get together this summer
I'm on
and
summer break.
Hit some balls.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Have you watched anything recently that was good?
Actually, you know what? It's funny you say that. I did watch something recently, and I actually watched 2 somethings recently. And I watched iRobot, and it's awesome. That's a really good movie. And Shia LaBeouf is in that.
Is he?
Yeah, he's like Will Smith's little sidekick. And I'm like, oh, dude, Shia LaBeouf used to be like, he's pretty good. And then I happened to watch Constantine, and I'm like, fucking Shia LaBeouf is the sidekick in this. He's pretty good in this one, too. Man, that kid had a future.
Remember when he was Indiana Jones's son / sidekick?
Yep, I remember that, too.
There was like a couple of years there where him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt were like always the fucking sidekick guys.
He was gearing up to be the next action guy.
Remember when Joseph Gordon-Levitt was Robin and then they did nothing with that?
Yeah, well, that was awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wonder what Shia LaBeouf is up to nowadays. I know he's like kind of weird or crazy or something.
A guy doesn't want to be a famous actor anymore, so now he's weird and crazy.
Well, he did something else that people are mad about, and I'm just not tuned in enough to know what it was.
I don't know. But I think he's a good guy, and if he wants to come on this podcast, we'd be happy to have him.
Yeah.
Thank you to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork, and thank you all for listening and leaving a review or a comment. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else you find podcasts. And you can come and chat with us on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you next week.
See ya.
Go, sirs.
Yes, sir.
I love you, Tyrese.